Good morning, good morning, good morning. Your heart is free. Have the courage to follow it. Yeah. I know I've been real quiet online last few days. It's just, it's hard to care about the pettiness of the gender of freaking potatoes and Dr. Seuss canceling a handful of books out of dozens and dozens and dozens when you get a phone call about someone who's going through some really traumatic shit, having a really traumatic family. And it's just the programming of toxic parents can be so detrimental. I mean, this poor girl, she was only 36 years old, but she had two narcissistic parents. And I mean, I let Luna go through her whole thing. I didn't psychobabble her while she was going through what she was dealing with them. But I mean, this poor girl's father was a infamous pill pusher doctor in New York who lost his license several years ago. So, he was probably an addict. The mother was an addict. She was an addict. I'm not sure about the little sister because she apparently had mental illness issues where she couldn't even take care of herself. And just listening to Luna talk, and she's like, I thought the girl was terminally ill. And they said, and then she's like, no, she had a chronic condition that caused a lot of pain. I'm like, well, lots of people suffer from that. It still doesn't excuse becoming a heroin addict. I mean, people are like, oh, I don't judge. They were so desperate because they were in pain. I've been in pain. I've been in chronic pain. I have a chronic condition that will only get worse my whole life. I'm not shooting up in my bathroom. And I guess it triggered a lot for me because I went through all this with my own family. And it was very similar storyline of, oh, it was just so much pain. Oh, I lost my pain doctor, things like that led to the issue. And it's like, that's how the program, that's like, one of the most inspirational stories that I ever heard at the Zen Den was a woman, she was an older woman. She was heavy set, the whole 9 yards. And she was, her story started out, she told me, she was never supposed to have children. She was like, I had written off ever having kids. And then I ended up taking in a 17-year-old autistic kid that got booted from the system. She goes, and he quickly became like a son to me. And a few years later, he came and told her that his girlfriend was pregnant and they were getting married. And she was like, and I was going to be a grandmother. She goes, I went from never thought I was going to have kids to being a grandmother. And 2 weeks after she found out she was going to be a grandmother, she got diagnosed with terminal cancer and given 3 months to live. And instead of embracing what the doctor said, and instead of, now she didn't completely write off her doctor. She went in for her treatments and things like that, but they had a very low success rate and everything else for her condition and how advanced it was. But instead, this was in January. So what she ended up doing was she bought herself a round trip ticket to Europe for October. She was told she was going to die in May or April. And she bought a round trip ticket to Europe in October. And every 2 weeks when she got paid, she added something to her European trip. 5 stars, whole way, candlelight dinner on the Eiffel Tower, everything. I mean, everything that you would do to wine and dine across Europe, she went for the best of the best of the best of everything. And she went on that trip. And she's been in full remission since. So accepting certain programs is always a choice. And I brought that up because this poor girl, now they don't know if she did it on purpose or not, but it was pretty clear that her father is one of those overt narcissists, just the mean, nasty right out front. You know how they work. Like, they're really nice to certain groups, but other groups that are close to them, they're narcissistic too. So it was obviously clear that he was a total asshat, because he calls the little sister to explain that he's coming down to New York to collect her, that this girl just lost her mother in January, literally just found her sister's dead body, calls the father, and this is what he has to say within hours of this happening to her. I'm coming down there to get you, and you're going into a nursing home, and figure out what you want to do with your cats, because you know you're not keeping them. Horrible, horrible person, right? But now the mother is what I call an empathic narcissist. Now, she was also in chronic pain and had her illnesses that she clung to for her excuse to constantly have these pills and drugs and stuff in the house, constantly justify the need to be taking them. She had created 2 adult children that were absolutely, completely dependent on her. Completely dependent on her. The one girl, I'm not sure what her level of drugs and things are, but the girl who died had a relatively normally functioning brain, except for the fact that she suffered from a lot of pain, and she did a lot of drugs because of the pain. So her mother allowed the drug addict behavior and created all her appointments and stuff for her to maintain this steady flow of drugs into the house. So when the mother died back in January, of course, everything went to shit, because she, in her need to be the most needed person in her life and to be the "you'll die without me," created it so that these two have no skills whatsoever to take care of themselves. Knowing full well, and now this woman had lung cancer and got over that and all kinds of shit, knowing full well that if she died, her girls had nothing. Didn't set them up any safety nets or give them any way of taking care of themselves. So within a few months, she ran out of her prescription pills, got a hold of street drugs. They were getting evicted from their apartment. Everything was going to shit because they weren't ever taught that. And now they tell me that the mother did this thing with the daughter where they made a pact. If one dies, the other dies. If I die, then you die. And if you die, then I... Who makes that pact with their child? Who puts that program in? Dangerous, dangerous, dangerous program. And the excuse is, oh, she can't take care of herself. You teach them. A special needs child. You teach them. Oh, he doesn't wash his hair very well, so I have to wash my son's hair. But I only do it once a month to make sure that I get all the residual stuff that he doesn't rinse out well enough. But in doing that, I'm also teaching him how to make sure that he washes his curly hair really good. His problem is his hair is so curly, it's hard to really scrub down to the scalp. But my goal with my son, even with his special needs, is that someday he can take care of himself. I don't know. My mom worked with handicapped adults when we were younger. I've got plenty of cousins that suffer from either autism or dyslexia. I have one that suffered from grand mal seizures, had really bad problems when she was little, and she just recently graduated from college. So don't pick up these dangerous programs if you have. It doesn't matter what your parents said. I get that a lot too, especially from men. Men, their big thing is my daddy. My daddy said this, and my daddy said that, and my daddy fishes with this lure is the best lure in the world, and my daddy said that you could crack an egg in your radiator and it's gonna fix the leaks. And I'm like, dude, your parents are people, y'all. Just as fucked up and messed up as you and me and everybody else in the world. We don't have to absorb toxic shit programming from these people that will ruin your life. All right. I like the Ace of Cups in this deck. It says alchemy, right? The ability to transmute anger to love. The ability to transmute, negative energy to positive energy, right? I do see really trying to see a direction that you're trying to head in, but don't be too hasty. Make sure that you're not carrying in with you a bunch of burdens that aren't yours. Seize into your own power, create your own stability. On the 40 line, got the 8 of Cups. But in this deck, the 8 of Cups is like what? He's not walking away. He's got to turn around and come back past the Cups again. Right? So it's kind of like a moving on, but a not really moving on. What? You're acting like you've moved on and everything's fine, but you still know that you still got to turn around and face those Cups. Reversed. Usually I do this. It's like you're distracted somehow, overindulging or whatever, and you're missing an opportunity somewhere. This reverse, it's like you see the opportunities, you just refuse to do anything with them. Acknowledge them. I do see a very nurturing, giving energy. I give to the universe generously, and it gives back to me. Do a lot of passion on where you want to be going. So whatever emotional drama you got going on over here, your passions and your drive is still pulling you in a solid direction. Don't give up on those goals just because there's some heavier shit going down. All right, on the 5D line, you got strength. Right? Get the Ace of Wands. 10 of Swords is up to you. It's all as dramatic as you want to make it. It's all as dramatic as you want to make it. You are strong enough. You are passionate enough. You know where you need to nurture things. You know how to balance. You just need to decide how dramatic you want to make everything. Let's see what we got for our overalls. Six of Summer. Children or childhood, the return of people and romances from your past, remembering events differently in better or worse light than how they actually occurred. Now, I think this is funny, and I believe, I don't remember the doctor's name, was a lecture that I watched that talks about memory. And they said you really only remember about half of the details of your past accurately. The rest of your past is your mind filling in the blanks based on patterns and things that have happened within your life. So only like half of what you actually remember from the past is what genuinely happened. I don't know about y'all, But I know the Mandela effect and everything else, this was the number one thing that has happened in my family is, and for a while, I thought it was gaslighting until I learned that no, it's actually completely normal human behavior to really only remember half of the past accurately. I thought my family was all gaslighting each other because they would get together and they would talk about memories of things that happened, and everybody would have a different memory of what happened that day. And it used to trip me out a lot. I'm like, well, somebody's lying. But you couldn't tell who because nobody gave off the energy of lying. And it's like, because they're not lying. It's pathological. Whatever role they needed to fill, however they needed to create it to make themselves into a certain light, they've adjusted their memory to it. You get parasites and imprisonment and slavery. You know, that's really funny because it really does bring in the parasitic events of like that girl's mother. That girl's mother seemed like the sweetest person on the planet, I'm sure. And she probably was that woman who would be remembered as giving her all to her children. To everybody's detriment, she gave her all. To be the most needed person. It was parasitic. You die, I die is the ultimate parasite. That is the ultimate parasitic bond. That's imprisonment. That's slavery. Life is supposed to flow. It's supposed to move relatively effortlessly. I mean, when it's going slow and the tide's not really moving and you're in a doldrums spot, yeah, you're supposed to paddle along with it. But you're not supposed to really go against the current, and things are supposed to just flow. You know, I feel really bad for the one girl who's been left behind in all this. I don't know how old she was. I just know she was a year or so younger than her sister. I hope this works out for her. I hope that her narcissistic father, who she hates, does just put her in a home. I hope that home is where she finally makes the friends that she needs to make that have similar conditions to her. I pray that that is where she meets the therapist that will give her actual skills so that she can be an actual adult. And I hope her father's a big enough asshole that he just lets her grow and learn. Because it doesn't sound like he would be much help to her. Who knows? All this may have saved her because she was not stuck because she couldn't comprehend the levels of the programming that the mother had put on the other sister of the you die, I die. Oh, you're so sick. Oh, I have to take care of you. Oh, you poor thing. For shame, you'll never be able to do it on your own. Caused this girl to live her life in a way where she self-sabotaged all her relationships. She was like, I'm just nothing but a burden on everybody in my life. I will always be nothing but a burden. She had to have picked that up. Their parents didn't do them no favors. And I say that all the time. You guys do not have to do things because your parents told you to. You do not have to turn into your parents. No one told you guys that your parents were perfect, infallible creatures besides maybe your parents. But even, and intention does matter. But even the best intentions can turn toxic if you allow them in situations like that. I wish I could have talked to that girl more. Because it's so scary how close we came to coming into contact. She grew up not far from the town that I grew up in, relatively the same age group as I grew up in. There's plenty of chances that I may have ran into her several times during my high school career. All right, y'all. That's all the time I got for today. I hope this message helps somebody out there. Truly, blessed be all those who walk these weird and winding paths with me. Please take the time in your life to realize what programs are toxic bullshit that do not matter anymore. Understand that any program is a program. Your brain is a wet work computer. You can rewire it. You know, doctors can be wrong sometimes. I'm not saying go against their advice, but at the same time, doctors told me that by this age now, I should be facing surgery. And at this age now, I'm actually more active than I was several years ago. I haven't been to the hospital in 3-4 years for my back going out because I changed my mindset on pain. And it's because I changed my mindset on pain that nobody has ever found me laying on a bathroom floor with a needle in my arm because I got so desperate. The pain was so bad that I went out and bought street drugs. And for those of you that are on street drugs, know they are poisoning them on purpose. All right. I love you guys. I'll catch you tomorrow.